Hello everyone, this is Catherine. Coming on live today to invite you to look at 7 ways to not go crazy in these times of pandemic. So how you guys doing? I mean, this has been such a global roller coaster where everybody is involved, like truly everybody. It's the first time in the world's history that the whole world is shut down for health reasons, and that everybody is concerned, right? Everybody has to bring in their efforts and contribute to the solution, right? So let me know how you're doing. I'm presently up in Canada, and some of you know my sweetie lives in California, so the borders between Canada and the US closed before I was able to go back to him. And so that brought a lot of uncertainty, and I've had to use a lot of my own tools to stay focused in the eye of the storm. So I was inspired to bring you today 7 ways to not go crazy during this time, and hear from you also, like what has worked, what has not worked, how are you feeling physically, emotionally, spiritually. I really want to connect and know what's happening for you. So 7 ways to ease this transition or this period. The first way is learn to practice accepting living with uncertainty. And I know that for a lot of you guys, me included, we like to be in control. We like to control things and to know, to have a certain certainty about things. And for myself, I also have a side of myself that is completely free, you know, to whatever is, and welcoming the synchronicities of life. You know, like for example, when I was younger and traveling, you know, back then in Thailand, I remember going to a bus station and telling the person, just give me a bus ticket to anywhere that leaves, anywhere in the country in the next 5 minutes, because I wanted to leave Bangkok. And then, you know, I ended up in this amazing place in Thailand, and I met a girl, and we traveled together. So my invitation is for you to practice accepting uncertainty and letting go of the things that you can't control. And simple ways of practicing living with uncertainty is, let's say you're going out for a walk. Well, don't check the weather before you go out for a walk, and just kind of deal with it. You know, it's a certain season where you live, so you probably have an idea of what to wear. Of course, you wouldn't go out in the winter in a swimsuit. At least not me. But knowing that from the research from the 2009 H1N1 pandemic, we know that people who had the hardest time accepting uncertainty were the people who reported the highest level of anxiety. So either way, this too shall pass. Like, we will get on the other side of this. When? We don't know. But we will get on the other side of this. And here's your choice. You have a choice of getting on the other side of this, either damaged from stress and kind of cortisol release chronically that weakens the immune system, brings on inflammation, puts you at risk for several illnesses. Or you have a choice of practicing letting go of the things that you can't control and just living with uncertainty. Practice living with uncertainty. You know, and it can be as simple as doing a recipe by heart, not checking the, you know, the quantities and just winging it. Stuff like that. You know, just have fun with it. Practice accepting uncertainty. This is the first step. Does that resonate? What are you guys doing to practice living with uncertainty? I'm really curious, because the more we exchange tricks and techniques and stuff, the more we can, you know, help each other grow in times like this. The next way to not go crazy in these times is to fight the paradox of anxiety. So here's the thing. Anxiety, or, you know, stress, is present in proportion to the amount of something that you want to get rid of. You want to get rid of something. Like, you know, for me last week, I wanted to get rid of the idea that I would not be able to see my sweetie for I don't know how long. And the more I focused on that, the worse it was. You know, it was just like overwhelming. And what, you know, Carl Jung said it so neatly, that whatever you resist persists. So letting go of the paradox of anxiety, instead of trying to run away from the emotion. Let's say, you know, you have this stress or anxiety that's coming up, and there's escape mechanism like going to overeating, drinking, over Netflixing, numbing ourselves. Instead of trying to escape from that and just want it to go away, which is only going to bring more of it, I would love for you to practice sitting with the emotion. Most people don't want to feel their emotions because they're uncomfortable, and there's a piece of themselves that's afraid they're going to die, kind of. And I know it's just a survival thing, right? But practice sitting with the emotions, staying still and just breathing. Breathe through it and ask this emotion, what is the message? How, you know, what is the message from this emotion? How, you know, life happens for you, not to you. So how is this emotion for your greatest good in the current circumstance? So by sitting still and kind of just welcoming the emotion, it's like you're almost like having a meeting with the emotion. You're going to gather a lot more information than when you're trying to push it away and it just, you know, swings back to try to catch you. And I bet you're going to have some massive insights from that. So go ahead and try next time if there's a roller coaster of emotions and you notice yourself going into escape behaviors and trying to compensate for it or just kind of have it go away, practice sitting still with it and hearing the message from this emotion. I guarantee this emotion is not going to kill you. You know, there is such a thing as scared to death, but most of us do not face lions or you know, the stress that we live is over a lot of time catastrophic worst case scenario, and that we're making up in our own minds, right? So sit with the emotion and ask what its message is for you. Ask what's its positive intention for you. It wouldn't be there if it didn't have a positive intention. I can tell you that. So does that make sense? Does that resonate? If you're there watching, I can't see who's there. So if you're there watching with me, just let me know if that resonates and what you're willing to try. And yeah. The next strategy, number 3, is to go beyond the existential anxiety, meaning everybody's afraid of dying, right? And when there is a threat like this, a threat to health, we fear losing our health, which is quite relevant in this context. But again, if we focus on we fear losing, we're missing out on the opportunity on what we might gain living, right? So I would invite you to connect with something that brings meaning into your life, something that brings purpose, that brings comfort, and connect with the why, you know, why you want to stay alive for these things. It might be your kids or your grandkids, or it might be your life's purpose, or it might be this project that you want to see, you know, in fruition. So instead of focusing on the fear of death, you know, use that fear as a compass to focus on exactly the opposite of what is it that makes you so afraid of losing your life. So what is it that's going to make it worthwhile to live your life? And how about when you're in confinement at home with all this time on your hands, if you do have time on your hands. I know some of you have kids. I'm still working. I mean, I'm so grateful my business is online, and I coach my clients from all around the Americas and Europe. So very grateful for that vision that I created for myself back in 2015. This is something I wanted, and then I created it. So, but yeah, focus on what brings you joy, what brings you purpose, why you would want to stay alive, basically, instead of focusing on the loss of death. Does that make sense? I feel like it's a whole new perspective that is going to open up for you as you focus on why is it that you want to stay alive so much, and how every minute counts. Really, every day is precious. It's such a gift. Life is such a miracle. It's such a gift, right? So, all right, strategy number 4. Do not underestimate your resilience, your ability to rebound back from adversity, right? So there's a great mentor of mine. His name is Brennan Burchard, and he was giving a lecture to his membership people. And what he said really was profound is, you know, we fear 3 major things, right? We fear loss. Could be loss of health, could be loss of jobs, loss of financial security, loss of freedom. So we fear loss, right? So again, that in that fear of loss, focusing on the gain that there could be, right? And it's not the first time we go through adversity. It's not the first time the stock market crashes. It's not the first time we're challenged in our health, right? Like, think about one of the hardest times in your life when you had to use all of your resources, you were resilient, you rebounded from that, you know, brilliantly, and tap into these resources. Like, what is it that you had to believe, and what efforts did you have to make in order to make it, right? So, you know, for me, when I think back about one of my most recent greatest adversity was healing from Lyme disease, where I just had to have, you know, a vision in mind all the time, even in the worst moments of, you know, a vision of, even when I couldn't, you know, do more than 5 minutes of stationary bike, I was still envisioning myself carrying my hang glider and being on launch and launching and flying, because it's pretty physical. It requires muscle, and at that time I had none left from Lyme. I mean, it was horrible. But I remember just holding on to that vision and just being so clear in my mind, this is what I want, this is what it looks like, this is what it feels like. So I would invite you, I mean, you got nothing to lose but to focus on the gain rather than the loss, right? Knowing that what we emit as we think about different scenarios determines the vibration of what we attract in our life. Well, why not attract the things that you want? So that means you have to focus on the things that you want, not the possible loss. So how about focusing on a possible gain? The second thing that we fear the most is the process pain, right? The struggle to get there. And again, remember your own resilience when you had to go through some hardship in your life. It's not the first time you go through some hardship. And it's, you know, let's say we think financial, it's probably not the first time that stock market is dropping and then you're fearing whatever's going to happen. I mean, I remember when I was 20, coming back from traveling for 10 months in Southeast Asia and Australia, I came back with minus $10 in my bank account. And I was like, oh, that's not fun. Or being in debt with, you know, studies or house and stuff. But eventually got out of there, right? And so will you, right? So remember, your own resilience is set that the mindset of you are stronger than you think. And it's in moments like this, when life is kind of testing your resiliency, that you can really overcome yourself and find out how much stronger you are, stronger than you thought you were. And research has shown also that people have a tendency to overestimate the severity of circumstances and underestimate their ability to face it. Okay, so while remaining realistic of what's happening, you know, we're not diminishing in any way. Let's keep that as a, you know, to the size that it's required to be, and grow the size of your resiliency. You are stronger than you think. You will get through this, and so will I, and we're all gonna get through this. Right? The next tip is, you know, whenever there is suffering, whenever, you know, stress, anxiety creates suffering in your mind, right? And it creates a certain distress within you. So here's the thing. This is from Viktor Frankl. Suffering, in his brilliant book, Man's Search for Meaning. So what he's saying, which is so brilliant, is suffering stops being suffering. You stop to suffer when the suffering has a meaning to it, right? So for example, last week I was feeling in a lot of distress because my partner was supposed to be here over the weekend, and then I was supposed to go back to California next weekend, and then I mean, schools, businesses, everything was shutting down, travel bans between countries, and the uncertainty of it all, and then the borders shut down before I could go back to the States, and I mean, my travel insurance would not have insured me anyways, so the decision was in the final easier to make than it had been the whole time. But here's the thing, when I attributed meaning to this suffering, my mind became at peace. I stopped suffering. So the meaning I gave to this was, well, what if this is an opportunity for us to be even more connected, even if we're not physically together? And it's an opportunity for him to bring some closure into some aspects of his life. A lot is going on. And for me to reorganize my whole space, because he's going to come and live with me 6 months of the year. So I want to make space for him. And my whole space had been calling for decluttering and tidying for like 4 years, really, more than that. But the last year and a half, you know, I would wake up and think like, oh, what can I give today? What can I let go of? And 2 months ago, I had made this appointment with a home organizer who's trained in the KonMari method. If you don't know, it's the Marie Kondo, the life magic, what is it? Life magic phenomenon. I don't know, but of organizing and tidying. And she has this whole way of like, instead of focusing on what you want to let go of and liberate, focus on what you really want to keep. That brings you so much joy, that, you know, lights you up. If it's a piece of clothing, do you want to wear it when you see it? So actually, this was awesome. We did that last week, and before everything closed, and I've got this new office, which is my new space, and I love it. Didn't think I was gonna love it so much, but it's been a process of, you know, letting go and seeing what sparks the joy and bringing this meaning. The point is, the meaning of that, of like, oh, my sweetie is, you know, bringing closure to some aspects of his life out in California, and I'm setting a stronger foundation and reorganizing my space. Did you know that your environment really has a big impact on your energy, like physical, mental energy? So I've been doing this, and it's feeling really, really good. So by attributing this kind of meaning of when my sweetie and I will reconvene, we'll be together again, we'll be continuing our relationship, but on a cleaner slate, you know, like, kind of a refreshed and more up-leveled, a higher vibe even. And so when I think about that, I'm like, okay, I'm grateful for this time that we have to be apart and go inside ourselves and do some cleanup and some tidying. So for you, if you're feeling suffering, stress, anxiety, distress, what meaning could you attribute to this time that would appease your mind, that would just put your mind at peace? And I really invite you to do that, while bringing in the sixth strategy for not going crazy in this time. It's to take even better care of yourself. We can't say it enough. It is imperative to have a strong immune system and to care for your body, right? Because not only because of the virus, but because of what this is going to change in our lives, right? Like, if there was a moment to start eating better, to focus on your sleep, to start exercising, I mean, what better moment than now in these circumstances to really focus on your health? And I bet you that once you start feeling that energy in your body and that mental clarity and inspiration and peace in your mind, you're going to feel so good that going back to the old behaviors will not even make sense. And I bet you that people, this is my wish, that people, when they eat, they won't be able to put in some crap food and junk food in their mouth without thinking about this episode of how the whole world was shut down because of health reasons. Right? It's like we are all, instead of thinking that, oh, my behaviors only impact me, no. Your behaviors, my behavior, impact all of us. Like there's a reason why they're telling us to stay home and to not go out, because one person could be in a closed room with some people and infect 35% of this room just by the air, right? So think again when you feel like your behaviors only impact you. No. It impacts the whole community, the whole global community. So each person who takes care of their body, takes care of their mind, is stronger, can resist infections, takes care of the global community at the same time, right? And there's multiple ways of doing that, you know, staying inside, washing your hands in this moment, but it's also, you know, dropping that cigarette, dropping the extra alcohol, dropping the sugar, right? And there's people like myself who can help you do that, amongst other things. But take care of yourself. And I hope, one of the things I hope that comes out of this crisis is perhaps a heightened awareness of how important health is and how important it is that we choose carefully how we treat our bodies, how we treat our mind, but how we treat our planet. The planet is feeding us, right? It took less than a week of travel ban for Italy in Venezia to see fish in the channels that they hadn't seen forever. It took less than a week of travel ban for China to see a blue sky that they hadn't seen in decades, right? Nature has this way of rebounding really quickly. It's very resilient. And it seems like Mother Earth needed to take a breath and a break right now. So it's a great moment to review your ways of being, of eating, of living. So take care of yourself is the message. And then the seventh strategy is, if you feel like you need help, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like you're on this roller coaster of emotion, don't stay stuck in that, because the emotions are triggering the stress response. And the stress response is in direct opposition with your with the immune system. The more stressed you are, the weaker, the more inhibited the immune system is. And also, if we look at notions of physiology, when we are stressed, you know, when the stress response is on, for survival's sake, there is a redistribution of blood to the extremities so we can fight or flight, you know, from the lions. So there is less blood going into the frontal lobe because the blood is redirected into the subconscious reflexes, right? Like lower in the, am I going to say it? in the spinal cord, because the information is relegated faster than when it has to be analyzed in the frontal cortex. So this is an adaptive mechanism for us to be able to get out of acute situation. But the problem is that when it's chronic, there's a chronic depletion of blood in the frontal lobe. So what it does is it makes us not necessarily dumber, but we don't have access to higher executive decision making, and we might make decisions that we later regret. So don't let yourself be stuck in the rut and in that spiral of negative emotion and continued activation of stress. Ask for help. And I'm available, professionals like me, there's all kinds of people right now. There's free meditations, there's communities that are forming all over the globe, really. So I'd be happy, just connect with me. I'm there for you. I'm available, and I can connect you to some resources if you want, but don't stay stuck in a rut. Don't stay stuck by yourself in that spiral. It's not good. It's not good for you, and it's not good for the people either, right? So everybody who takes care of their body and their mind, and they stop sending stress molecules, stress vibration into the world, is taking care of the others around them. So just remember that. I hope this resonates, and I hope you're doing good and that your families are all healthy. And let me know your questions. I'd be happy to do a Q&A. I mean, I was a nurse practitioner and a nurse for a long time. That knowledge is still present. And I have access to some pretty reliable medical source of information, both in the US and Canada. So I might, if this is something that would be valuable to you, I will organize a Q&A so that you can come to have some of your questions answered. All right. So love you, everyone. Stay high vibe, stay safe, and let's talk again soon. All right. Take care. Bye for now.